Just stop it. The run-of-the-mill, cheesy, humdrum bullshit status quo just tires me out. What fascinates me are the industry disruptors, the superhuman frontiersmen or women who go through hell to achieve their goals. Join me as we meet and learn from those mavericks, rebels, and business leaders that aren't afraid to piss off the establishment in order to make radical change for good. Sponsored by Johto PR, the disruptive anti-PR firm that murders your competition with cinder blocks and cyanide. This is Disruption Interruption.
Perfect.
Welcome back, everybody, to Disruption Interruption. I'm your host, KJ, and we're here today to talk to another industry leader that has steered off the lame, tired path of the status quo. Well, we have something in store for you today. The way we handle inheritance in this country is completely backwards. We've been conditioned to believe that wealth transfer is a waiting game, and the next generation has to wait for a family tragedy just to get the liquidity they need to start a business, buy a home, or even build a life. We've basically accepted that trillions of dollars should sit locked away as dead equity while heirs struggle through their most productive years. The industry tells you that you can't touch that wealth early without triggering a tax nightmare or draining your parents' retirement. Our guest today is the guy, or one of the guys, who looked at that 84 trillion great wealth transfer and realized the bridge between generations was out. They're disrupting the inheritance status quo and proving that wealth shouldn't be a static prize at the end of a long life. It should be a tool that fuels a family's growth in real time. So we're diving in to find out why the wait-and-see model of inheritance is a relic and how to access liquidity without a bank's permission, and why the next revolution in FinTech is all about the family tree. Please welcome our disruptor, the co-founder and CEO of Forward Inheritance, Brian Walley.
KJ, thank you so very much for having us. It's an honor to be here. Excited to have this conversation. Let's get into it.
Me too. Let's get into it. So tell me about you first. You know, our listeners love the first question. They actually told us that we should ask the first question after years of doing this podcast. They want to know, first of all, before they know who you are, what drives you? What has driven you towards disruptive innovation in your life?
Sure. Big question. Great question. I think the first things first is I am impatiently unsatisfied with how things are going, right? I like to ask why and say, well, why is that? And why is that? And if I don't find an answer quickly, boy, I'm probably going to try to help solve that problem. And so where I got to here, look, if you look, you can look back at my career. I've basically been a FinTech guy my whole career. So think software, financial technologies, payments, et cetera. And the way I got to call it this space specifically was, look, I have an 81-year-old father who's a retired litigator. I have 3 beautiful sisters who I get along with really, really well. And I'm very lucky about that. My mother is deceased and my father's remarried. So I'm divorced. We have a very modern family kind of element to us.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where I looked around at my sisters and I was like, hey, how prepared are we? And my dad's like, we're great. And I was like, can you prove that? And he goes, sure. And he hands me a bird nest of documentation. And I was like, Pops, did I see an 8th Amendment to the will? And he's like, no, that's on the prenup. And I'm like, hey, man, that doesn't work. Like, that doesn't work for anybody. And if you're a retired litigator, like, he's a lawyer and we're in this spot and we all like each other, we're probably in a better place than most. And I was like, my goodness, there's $84 trillion of wealth about to be passed down to the next generation. And I don't think any of us are well prepared for that. And without proper planning, paperwork, and process, the tax man, probate courts, and the estate attorneys, or the tax man is going to take all of our money. Like, do we want to give the government all of our family wealth?
I think there's multiple songs about that, right?
Yes, there is. I'll sing a little Revolver, song 1. I got you. There we go. Thank you.
Well, you fit a lot of our disruptors and innovators. It's curious, like, why not? Such an important question. Why? Why not? Feels like a 2-year-old all the time, right? But 2-year-olds are pretty smart, right?
Indeed, they are. Having 2 children of my own and needing to make sure I'm protecting them as well. Yeah, I learn from the kids all the time. And if you can't explain it to a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old and make it make sense, you probably don't know and you're probably not prepared. So I'm always thinking about, can I explain this to a 5-year-old?
Explain to a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old. I remember my godbaby when he was 2. Of course, he did it all the time. He asked, why? I remember one time we were in the car and he's like, why is it? He said something about, what a nightmare. He said, why do you call it a nightmare? Right? And maybe he's 2 or 3. So we explained it to him. A nightmare is not just a dream. It's something that's, can be bad. Right? And then we were complaining about the traffic, and he put two and two together and he says, a traffic nightmare. And we were like, he's so smart. If you can explain it to a 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old,
Then you got it.
you're
Then you're cooking
rocking
with
it.
gas.
Yes, for sure. Okay, tell us, you said a lot of stuff that you have a lot of intimate knowledge, and my listeners do not. This bird's nest, okay, well, it was in the prenup. Like, what is the status quo? Like, break it down for us
Yeah,
today
sure.
with inheritance and inheritance issues and tax and this and that.
Great. I'm going to be directionally accurate with these statements and specifically wrong. So folks in the comments, look, you're right. It wasn't 38%, it's 40% or 42%. Fine.
Okay.
Roughly 40% of families with homes also have a trust and will. Okay. So cool. That means 60% of homeowners do not have a trust. Now, if you pass as a homeowner, if I were to pass away and my two beautiful children who are in teenagers, let's just assume they're adult children, and I passed away and that home is not in a trust, it goes to probate in the state of California. And like, do my children want to go argue with the state of California that that home is actually a family home and not a government property, or at least a temporarily government property for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and have to pay to prove that the family owns the home? Like, that's insanity. That's insanity, right? And this is the way we voted for all this, we paid for all this. This is the way our tax code works. Okay, that's a whole distinct conversation. So first and foremost, look, I live in the Altadena region of Pasadena, and I know 6,000 homes that have a will, had a will. Mom and Dad, where's the will? Let's just start with that. Mom and Dad, where's the will? Where's the will? Where's the trust?
Where is the will?
Don't know, right? What we need to do.
Have it, but they don't know where it is.
Or even if they know where it is it a dot? Let's scan it. Let's secure it. Let's get it online. Let's make mom and dad with edit rights. Let's have the next generation have view only rights, right? So that we all kind of know what the drill is going to be before the only person who can settle any of those bets is no longer in the room. Like, what kind of process is that? Like, why are we doing this to ourselves?
Because, let me just interrupt you for a second.
Yeah, please.
That I understand. Is this because the generation that is now like passing and they were never in the digital age, so this was all in a paper format, or is it something more?
I think it's more human than that. I think it's more human. I think we have technology. We can use technology to help solve the problem, but that doesn't solve the problem. Let's go fundamentally. When I had the talk with my dad, right? Pops, let's talk about the inheritance. Let's talk about the process. It's not about the money. Let's be very clear. I was at no point in that conversation is it about the money. It's about the process, right? And I was like, Pops, when we talk about this, like, are you setting this up well for my three sisters and I? And he goes, I don't want to talk about my mortality. And I'm like, Dad, look, I get that you don't want to talk about your mortality. I don't want to think about me passing away either.
I mean, it's probably difficult, right?
For some people it is,
some people it's not, but a lot of people it is.
Sure, but like not wanting to talk about gravity doesn't stop the coffee cup from breaking when it falls off the table. Like, cool, like I get it. I get that these are, how about this? Is it harder now, easier later, easier now, harder later?
They went to your father's an attorney, but they went to an attorney, an estate attorney or an inheritance attorney or whatever kind of law it is, right? Yeah. To help them create this will. Now, is it part of the process that no one knows who that attorney is?
How about this? Yes, and I'm going to go with yes, and. If you think about, let's just keep using my father as a great example, right? Who's the executor of his will? I mean, I know this because I've asked him, but he's also 80 plus years old. Do you want that to be the executive of the will? Who's his wealth manager? I don't know. Who's his doctor? I don't know. Right?
You don't have any of that data.
Right? Like, how do we know these things? How do we know these things?
Peculiar to Americans?
I think it's human. Well, I'm starting with Americans, and we definitely have a culture of not being able to talk intergenerationally about our finances and our wealth transfer.
I mean, that's when I listen to you, and I don't know if it's other ethnicities, they're way more family oriented than the Americans. Right? Sure. We don't talk about those things, and it's very much rugged individualism. Our parents were like, I got to handle this. I'm the patron. I'm the, patriarchy. Like, this is my job. None of that stuff gets passed down.
Correct. And like, why are we reinventing this process every generation while grieving and doing like 13 weird things that we do once in our life or maybe twice in our life? Right.
And what are we reinventing when you say we're reinventing?
How about this? If you had to go find out who your parents' doctor is, like, you know what I mean? Why isn't there a better way? Right? Like, how do we know? Right? Yeah, totally. So many of us are in this situation. Well, hey, so many of us are in this situation, and I would submit, KJ, and I'm just going to be respectful about this. Like, we're in that sandwich generation where we're raising parents right now and raising children. And so, we're in it. And so I think if I could, let's stop the intergenerational trauma of bad financial advice going down. We can stop this. We can do better. We can help our families move forward, and we can do this in a much better way. It's going to take, and these aren't, yes, it's hard, but not difficult conversation or not complex conversations. They may be hard to start, but I actually think my experience is once you have one or two of these conversations, it becomes a regular thing that the family can do annually, like almost like an annual board meeting for the family or something to that effect where, hey, let's just dust off the paperwork. Let's make sure it's all kosher. And we could call that the spring cleaning event, right? And then we can just be knowing that, hey, for the next year or 2 years, we're probably pretty good to go. Right. And we can watch balances move up and down. And isn't that neat? And we can make sure that everything is, we can monitor, but let's pour the foundation now and let's do the harder work today so that when my dad eventually does pass, despite his ego and his belief that he never will, which trust me, I hope he never does, when eventually gravity takes hold. Okay. Do I want to spend that time finding paperwork, figuring out who to call?
It's already so difficult, especially when you're yes. I might be a slight anomaly. My dad was, definitely had an engineering mind. He was calculating my GPA since I was 5.
Sure.
But I should ask him, where do you have all of this information? Right? But is it just as simple as that? It seems so, like when I think of this, and I know I'm oversimplifying it, like, okay, fine. You just need to have a conversation with them and get where their information is and get it documented. I don't think it's that simple.
It's never that simple. So now I'll just start layering in some of the complexities. All right. Let's say my dad did do this. My dad gave me $1 to help me when I was earlier in my career to buy my first home. And that was lovely. And he wrote an interfamily note, right? I owed the estate, right? $1 plus, call it 5% simple interest or whatever it was. And it was a very effective way. And he documented it because he was a lawyer, right? And if my father had passed while that note was outstanding, I paid it back. So did all 3 of my sisters. We're all square. But if something were to happen and A, he didn't document it, right? And then B, let's say I had that extra $1. If I already had $1 in my pocket, right? That's unfair to my sisters, right? Mm-hmm. Why are we not documenting intrafamily loans, intrafamily gifts? Was it a loan or a gift? The only person that could have answered that would be my father, who's no longer in the room, right? And so, there are so many ways we can, I go back to your word of disrupting. There's so many ways we could do this better. Like, let's just help ourselves and do this better, because what we're really disrupting, and it's kind of fun, is like the tax man. Like, right. Let's disrupt the tax man. Let's help ourselves. And so it's about having the ability to have accountability, clear, transparent, call it what is going to happen. What are mom and dad's intent? What do you want to do with it? It's your money. It's your money, mom and dad. It's your money. Okay. Right? What do you want to do with it? You want half of it to go to charity? Awesome. Let's make sure. Which charity? Why?
Does this sort of replace a will? Or like, is this in like an inheritance portal where everybody's just filing all of their stuff online and it's organized like SharePort? Like, what?
So fundamentally, yes, there is a document storage element to it and a document sharing element to it that is secure, that is online, that is appropriate. Let's share it with your wealth manager. Let's make sure your tax accountant has the appropriate visibility. What about your estate attorney, right? The professionals that help you with the business of your family.
Okay.
A good reframe is your family is a business. There are 12 million families who are going to give $1 to $5 million of inheritance to the next generation. That's a lot of Americans. And here's the thing, and that's a ton of money once you start doing the math, right? But and so much of their estate value is probably tied up in real estate. That's probably a very easy thing to say, like, generally speaking, the home plus some financial accounts is the bulk of that $1 to $5 million going from one generation to the next. And so the question becomes, how do we make sure that the value of that, all of that hard work and energy and legacy that a mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, like, they want at life. Let's honor their legacy and let's make sure we do this elegantly and efficiently and effectively. So yes, it's a portal to gather that, but then we go a step further, as in, what's
the FinTech part of it?
Yeah, there's a couple. So one would be, we are bringing to market a way to purchase, if you will, to call it $100,000 out of mom and dad's house or grandma and grandpa's house via a home equity investment and give that down to the next generation tax-free with no money leaving mom and dad's bank account. So if you think about mom and dad as they are living longer, which is awesome, as they are not living in their homes, which is factual, and you can debate whether that's good or bad. Like, I'm not going to get into the policy side of
They're
that.
not living in their homes, or they are.
They are, and they're
Yeah.
staying in their homes, right?
They want to stay in their homes.
They want to stay in their homes. Let's let them. It's that they wanted the game of life. They get to ride off into the sunset how they choose. Let's support them and make sure that we're doing that appropriately. What you can do is, instead of, let's say, if you think about traditionally, and I'm going to go with averages here, we used to get our inheritance when we were 30 years old, right? And when we were 30, right, you would get an inheritance from mom and dad who are, let's say, call it, why did you retire at 60? Because you passed away at 65 and 70, right? As mom and dad are living longer, it's delaying the inheritance just by decades. And so it's really great to get an inheritance. It's always amazing to find free money you did not earn, free money when you're 60 years old. Like, that's super cool. You know when you need it is when you're 30. Like, when you have little kids and you're trying to buy your first home and you're trying to start a business and you're trying to start your own life. Mm-hmm. We can take the illiquid equity in mom and dad's home, a portion of it, a very safe portion of that illiquid equity, and get it down to the next generation completely tax-free for both mom and dad and the next generation. And we can do that without any money leaving mom and dad's bank account, no monthly payments.
Well, that's pretty cool. What's the other FinTech part of it?
Sure. We can then, once you have multiple family members sitting on the platform, right? You could say, my rich uncle could be a bank for a cousin or a nephew, right? And you could do intra-family loans so that the family is the bank, not the bank being the bank. Who wants to earn interest? Maybe, you know what I mean? Mom and dad do, or maybe your aunt and uncle or your grandma and grandpa. And it's not even crazy interest. It's not like you're making money on family. You're just saying, hey, for 3% money, 5% money, something super rational. That's a good deal for it's a good deal for the family on both sides, right? And it's a safe bet. Everybody knows where everybody lives. So, you can always collect. But sorry.
But you'd always have to convince that family member to give you that loan.
Totally right.
That's another issue in itself.
Spot on. That's a hard conversation, but you either have to convince a banker or your uncle, you know what I mean? Or your aunt or your niece, and whoever you could do that with. So there's a way to ensure that the family is keeping more wealth in the family. So that's another thing we can do based on, call it, all the data we see inside the platform once families are.
Gotcha. What is this? Does this have anything to do with people pass away and they leave their assets hanging around, family members don't know about it? There's a whole cottage industry that has seemed to have cropped up, and email you and say, hey, your mom left $200,000 in this and that. And do you have anything to do with that? So helping people recover those assets, or is that gone through not a probate attorney, but what do they call those?
Yeah, basically like a probate recovery firm. Yeah. That's exactly right. How about this? Let's not even have those conversations with those people. Let's organize.
But you're doing the proactive stuff.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
You don't have anything to do with that after.
That's right. I'd much rather prevent a nuclear spill than employ people to come and do nuclear.
Well, there's trillions of dollars because of that, because people have didn't know that they left behind this stuff. And it's a whole cottage industry where private investigators they don't even have to have a financial license or an attorney license, but they are private investigators that, I guess there's a whole database to find out where this wealth is. And then they contact you and say, hey, Brian, your dad left $2 million in mutual funds or whatever. Would you like us to go get this money for you? And then they get a portion of it.
Yeah, and they get a cut to do that. Totally right. Or, you could do? You could know about that account before, decades before mom and dad pass away. Wouldn't that be wild? Wouldn't that be wild?
We have decades right now. You have but you could. I mean, you're talking way in the future, but
sure.
You're talking
about. We could know beforehand, right? Let's document this. Let's get it in there so that we have a holistic picture of, call it, the P&L and the balance sheet of the family, so that we can, mom and dad are going to need money for health items. Let's just assume that, right? Let's make sure they have enough money. Let's make sure they're taken care of. And let's make sure we have an understanding of what the family assets are, so that when the estate does settle, and it's inevitable, it's gravity, right? We can do it in an elegant and an efficient manner. We can disrupt that process. So I go back to, so that we can grieve and honor, as opposed to having all the consternation of trying to find that account or figuring out.
You're not in your right mind in it.
Right.
So how long has Forward Inheritance been around?
Been around over a year now, which is great. Okay. And we're launching our inheritance portal to GA in March. So that's a massive thing for us. And we've already done some of those home equity investments. We've done our first tranche of those, and those are going really well. And we're already helping families get that liquidity down to the next generation, which is spectacular.
That's fantastic. Good for you. And what is the business model like for Forward Inheritance? How do you guys make money?
Yeah, sure. So the portal is a simple SaaS fee. Think $20 per head of household per month. Fine. So that's $240 a year, right? Cool. That's less than 30 minutes with your estate attorney for the whole year, right? Like just to put that fee in context. B, we have the home equity investments. That's much like you can consider it come out like a lending product, a HELOC, a little bit more of an expensive HELOC, if you will, but no monthly payments. So there's like an origination fee, and it's a very much like getting a mortgage, getting a HELOC kind of a process, but pretty simple. And then we're going to have a whole concept in here called the neighborhood. In the neighborhood, are you a member of Costco?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
The non-members of Costco.
Trust me, I love the Costco business model. You pay a membership fee, so you go into a Costco, right? And you walk in, and you're like, I'm looking for red vines. And you're like, you see the box of red vines, and you're just like, oh, that's a great box of red vines, right? Because it's better than Target and Walmart because Costco's already cut you a really good deal, and you know that's a good deal on red vines.
Yeah.
So it's fine. What if in the neighborhood you come, which is a different portion of our portal, you come in and you say, I'm looking for needs, leads, and learnings. I need a wealth manager. I need a tax accountant. I need an estate attorney, right? A professional to help you with the business. They'll be there and they'll be selling their wares.
Almost like a marketplace as well.
That's exactly right. Especially when you're looking for a new 529 plan or a high yield savings account or et cetera. We can do the FinTech products and then learnings. You can imagine we're going to have, call it 45-second, 60-second videos from a lot of those professionals that I mentioned earlier who just talked to you about what's a Roth IRA and why do you care? What does it mean when your estate attorney says fund your trust? Talk to us like a neighbor. Talk to us like a neighbor. Pros, cons, click here to learn more. And here you go.
See that you have great FAQs on your site. Just suggestion, and it might be really great for SEO too. You should put a glossary on your site.
Good call.
Thanks.
You.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because there's so much terminology that we don't understand, and then they could revert to the LLMs to try to figure it out, but they could be wrong. I mean, just like EBITDA has different definitions depending on who you speak to.
Correct.
That might be a really good thing since you're educating people. I think it's lovely what you're doing.
Yeah, and thank you. And we say this often, we will treat people like neighbors. What does your neighbor do? Your neighbor looks at you and goes, hey, your sprinkler's kind of busted and it's screwing up the fence. I'll help you with that fence on Saturday, but good luck with that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Right? Your neighbor's not going to do your job for you, but is going to be super helpful and kind. But it's your responsibility to take care of your family and your property.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, of course it is. No abdicating.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, tell people how to get a hold of you.
Absolutely. Forwardinheritance.com. Tried to figure out the most complex URL possible. Yeah, it's a little long, but it says exactly what it's supposed to say. That is the best way to get a hold of us. We would love to help. Look, we serve families and we're here to serve families for generations. And that's really what we want to do. And so forwardinheritance.com is the best way to do it. And we'd be honored to serve you and your family as well.
Yeah, it really makes a lot of sense. It's like when Netflix came out, everybody knew what Netflix was. Like, it forward.
Yeah, there's no need to over egg the dish. You know what it is? Let's move your family forward with your inheritance. And we're like, cool, there's the portmanteau. Let's go. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned your family and a modern family. What do you do in your copious free time?
That's awesome. Look, both of my kids are in high school. I try to support them as best I possibly can, right? I love to snow ski. I love to play golf. I love to run. I'm in a book club because I'm a huge nerd. These are the sort of things I do in my free times. Yeah, spend time with my lovely lady, Laura. This is what we do. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, great. Yeah. Well, thank you for educating on this today. I find it to be fascinating. I'm sure people will too. Before we end off, what's food for thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Look, it is scary. It is scary and hard to have these conversations with mom and dad, with grandma and grandpa, and candidly with your own children, right? Think about it that way. Fine. I think the last thing I'd leave everybody with is it harder to have those conversations or is it harder to not to, right? Isn't your family worth it? So maybe let's all go be the example that we need to be. Let's go help move our families forward. That'd be my final thought.
Fantastic. The wrong thing to do is to do nothing.
That's right. It's a terrible choice. Yep.
All right. That's a wrap, everyone. If you learned something today, I know you did. Go tell someone about this podcast. Tell people to go disrupt their markets and ask why or why not. And thanks for listening for Disruption Interruption, where we transform lives, we change consumer and family behavior, we alter economics, and we never accept the status quo. Ciao for now.
Because we live in a highly litigious society, with America being one of the top litigious countries in the world, here's our legal disclaimer. This information is not intended to be a substitute for professional public relations or legal advice. Do not disregard seeking professional legal, healthcare, or financial advice, or delay seeking professional PR or legal advice because of something you have heard here. Contact an attorney to obtain advice on any particular legal situation or problem. Use of this podcast or our website or any of its social media or email links do not create an agency-client relationship between Johto PR and the user.